Traders, how are you? With Marcello, we're doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. Finance, economies, war. It looks like the war is finally coming to an end. Elon Musk is making a bid for AI, and Doge continues to cause havoc. Let's go ahead and get started. The tariff war is continuing, even though it's not going to continue with Canada and Mexico. It looks like Trump wasn't that crazy after all. He was using the tariffs as a negotiating tactic to make Canada and Mexico do what he wanted, which is basically protect the border to stop illegal aliens and also drugs from coming through the border. So now Canada and Mexico sent their military, and there's a lot of extra support. He did, however, announce that he was going to put 25% tariffs on all aluminum and steel. Investors kind of seem to ignore that. And another thing that he did say as well, that he was going to individually apply tariffs to each countries that apply duties or tariffs to all the products from the United States that go to their countries. Because he says there's a lot of other countries that apply tariffs to us, but we don't apply it to them. So it's going to be an even playing field, and we're going to start charging them for that. On Wednesday, the CPI, or the inflation number, hit 3%, which is higher than expected. This is reinforcing what the Federal Reserve says, that they are going to rush in cutting rates as there's growing uncertainty over the economy. In retail sales on Friday, there was a report that it went down by 0.9%. Almost 3 times worse than what was expected. And overall, for the week, NASDAQ was the only market that was positive in North America outside of the Republic. The Communist Republic of Canada was also positive. The Dow and the S&P 500 both were negative. Overseas market news, the European markets were higher. Russia, if you consider it Europe, up above 7%. The DAX in Germany, which was the second biggest winner there, at 3.33%. And in Latin America, all the markets mostly higher. The Bovespa, which is the biggest market in Latin America, went up by almost 3%. Africa and the Middle East, mostly mixed. By the way, speaking of the Middle East, I don't know if you've seen the Maldives of Saudi Arabia. Whoa, look it up. And in Saudi Arabia also, they have this amazing hotels that they have in between these rocks in the desert, where they just put a pool and like cabanas, like hotel rooms right in the middle of these huge boulders. Really, really cool. Check it out. In Asia and Pacific, far east, mostly mixed. The Hang Seng from Hong Kong was the biggest winner there. And then in the Bitcoin and crypto space, the president of Argentina promoted a shitcoin where it collapsed 97% in value right after that. So he later deleted the tweet promoting the coin, and then he also put in another tweet saying that, oh, you know, the elites, they'll use this as the advantage and blah, blah, blah. But I thought that was really interesting. The overall Bitcoin market, Bitcoin specifically, was up 1.52%. Saturday morning, it was at 97,629. Commodities and energy, the Venezuelan state oil company, the country of Venezuela, resumed regular imports of light crude. And if there was another reason to not vote for communist dictators, Venezuela, if you didn't know, had the largest oil reserves in the world. I still remember, I think about 8 or 9 years ago, I went to a town near the Venezuelan border here in Colombia, and they were actually selling the Venezuelan gasoline because it was just a few cents. And now they can't even buy it because it's so dirty you can't put it in your car. It destroys everything. Russia may also be forced to start producing a lot less crude as U.S. sanctions start to hamper their access to Asian tankers. In addition to that, there's drone attacks that were attacking refineries from Ukraine. Ukraine drones attacking Russia. Crude oil prices fell after there was this prospect for a peace deal between Russia and the Ukraine. Trump announced that he's had calls with both Zelensky and also Putin to be able to go ahead and resolve the conflict, as he promised he would do in the campaign trail. U.S. crude for that reason in the U.S. was down 0.36% to 70.74, while international Brent was up 0.10% to 74.74. Cacao. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. It's down from the all-time highs, but now the consumption is starting to go down by quite a bit. Reporters are reporting that the cost of chocolate this year was up by 10 to 20%. And now that RFK was officially confirmed that we can make America healthy again, there's not going to be any more cancer in your chocolate. Gold for the week hit another record high, $2,963 with 30 cents, 0.76% positive for the week. It ended at just a touch over 2,883. Silver was positive as well, over 1%, ended at 32.23. And there seems to be something going on at the COMEX. The COMEX is the stock exchange, or the exchange that handles the precious metals. And one of the things with a lot of physical products, gold, silver, wheat, oil, there's called a futures contract, because a lot of times people, for example, I'll just give you a random example. Starbucks sells a lot of coffee, so they would put a futures contract to receive the coffee in the future. That's essentially how the futures market works, which is most commodities or physical products that are sold around the world. Well, the COMEX, it looks like someone might be attacking or doing some funny business because they've had a record amount of deliveries. And there's a little bit of a conspiracy theory that there's actually not enough gold in the warehouses and silver to cover all the contracts that they've sold in the actual exchange. So some people speculate that there's, 3, 10, 100x the amount of contracts, because most people don't receive the delivery of the physical product. They just speculate on the price. It's been the highest in almost 5 years, almost 2 times higher than the previous month in the last 5 years. People have actually requested to receive the gold. And some people are speculating that there might be an attack on the exchange. Argentina, which has the first libertarian presidential candidate in the world, their CPI rose to 2.2%, which is the lowest inflation print since President Milei took office in 2023. I try to be apolitical when I do a lot of these videos, but one thing I think we can all agree on, no matter what you have differences with whether the people, is that inflation affects everybody. That's basically a hidden tax, because it takes your purchasing power away, and most times incomes don't go up with the inflation, right? Inflation is the rising cost and prices. And so with just the collapse in inflation that Milei has done, very similar to what Doge is doing now in the US, where it's cutting a lot of government waste, 8 million less poor people. There's been a 33.5% reduction in poverty, which is amazing. So just so you know, inflation is when the government spends too much money. And right now we have a $2 trillion deficit, which means that we're spending $2 trillion more than what the government actually receives. And that's part of the reason why they're going so hard, Elon Musk and Doge, because they want to bring down that inflation. The Indian rupee, the currency from India, hit a record low on Monday. It did also spike, having the single largest day appreciation at 0.69% against the US dollar. The consumer inflation in China accelerated at its fastest pace in the last 5 months in January. And the U.S. producer price index, so we have the consumer prices or the inflation, and then we have the PPI, which is the production before, you go and buy it at the store. This is the price of producing products or services. That went up by 0.4%, which is higher than what analysis forecasts as well. So there may be a situation where we see a little bit higher inflation before it starts to come down again. Economic news, Singapore's GDP grew by 4.4% in 2024, marking the fastest growth since 2021. I don't know if you know a lot about the country of Singapore, but a generation ago, 1950s or so, they literally were just a fishing village, no money, no nothing. They have zero natural resources. They're a state, a federal, what's the word they use? They're basically one of the smallest countries in the world is what I'm trying to say. And now, 50, 60, 70 years later, they're one of the richest countries in the world. And without any natural resources, they have 2 of the largest 10 sovereign wealth funds in the world. Sovereign wealth fund is like a country's hedge fund, kind of. It's amazing. You should definitely look into the progress there. It's actually incredible. The industrial output in the United States gained very strongly for the second consecutive month in a row. And in some of the corporate news, Elon Musk is leading a group that offered $97.4 billion for the OpenAI nonprofit that is behind ChatGPT. So Sam Altman refused, saying that he'd offered $9 billion for Twitter. And then T-Mobile went up by almost 4% after they opened up the beta for satellite texting. So now wherever you don't have phone access in rural areas, you can literally have satellite access from Elon Musk. Lyft, which is the only competitor or one of the main competitors to Uber, mainly in the United States, they're planning to bring in robo-taxis, according to one of their executives, as soon as 2026 in Dallas. Didn't hit the revenue numbers, but they're still making money. And Rivian, which is another electric car company, they went up over 4% after they said that their commercial vans are now available for all customers. They previously had an exclusive contract with Amazon to be able to give them the vans. And technology, a team of researchers developed a method to investigate dark matter. Dark matter is believed to be the mysterious substance that holds galaxies together. So they're using clocks and ultra-stable lasers to be able to go ahead and try to do that. And I thought one of these things was really interesting, and this kind of helps Elon Musk in a way. They developed a new way to travel through space with ultra-thin sails powered by laser-powered light sails, which is amazing. A lot faster than what you would be able to do now. And what they want to do is get to other star systems. Our nearest one is Alpha Centauri, which is actually pretty interesting. In trade news, Trump's trade advisors are finalizing plans to put reciprocal tariffs on any countries that charges duties on U.S. imports. And New Zealand, if you wanted to invest in New Zealand, is relaxing the visa rules to attract more foreign investors to stimulate economic growth. Maybe they should just sell their passport. That would bring in a lot of money. And then they could just, as we see where our money is going in the United States, they could just give it to the politicians. International events, the three Baltic states of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, which is in Eastern Europe, are disconnecting their electric systems from Russia to integrate more with the European Union. And one of the things that's interesting there is that there's a little enclave, a Russian enclave between Lithuania and Poland. So basically it's surrounded by Europe, right? It's not in the Russian mainland. Kaliningrad is what it's called. I hope I said that right. It's going to cut them off from Russia's main grid as well. So now they're going to have to fend for themselves. Putin probably is going to like that. And an interesting fact this week, an 11,000-year-old settlement in Canada is challenging the idea that early indigenous people were nomadic. They found a fireplace that they've seen has been used for quite a while. And there's also new observations of an asteroid called 2024 YR4 that may impact the Earth in 2032. It has a whopping 2.3% chance to hit. That's the news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe. And remember, the preppers were right.